Okay, so that was that whole Facebook pre-thing. Welcome everyone, Ivana Taylor here, and I want to welcome you to the Monday edition of Bizapalooza Chat. And it is an exciting Monday because we're going to talk about marketing automation. So wouldn't it be great to have a team of 24/7 sales and marketing people who would work just for you? They don't take a vacation. They don't need healthcare benefits or sick days. They are consistent and on time every time. So who are these amazing people? Well, they aren't really people. It's marketing automation tools and systems. And if you're a small business that's looking for creative, low-cost ways to get and keep customers, you are going to love today's show. So with me today is David Reimer from Magnificent Marketing out in Austin, Texas.
Hello.
Hello, David. I want to put you on the spotlight, Mr. David. There you are.
Right.
There he is from Magnificent Marketing. I met David at Content Marketing World and was blown away by the kind of work that they do. Magnificent Marketing is an agency that generates leads that turn into customers while focusing on expanding the visibility of their company and positioning you to be top of mind. So David is going to talk about how to automate your marketing and how to get more customers without hiring more people. So David, that is the topic of our conversation today.
Sounds great. Sounds
right?
great.
Awesome. So I think I'm going to preface this entire conversation by sort of talking to exactly who our audience is. I am talking about Main Street businesses. These folks are busy. They wear many hats. And I think they've got a budget of next to nothing. I think it's between $400 and $500 a month to spend on marketing. And that doesn't leave a lot of room for salespeople or social media experts or any of that. What that does leave room for is marketing automation. So could you explain what we mean when we say marketing automation?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, marketing automation, when you hear that, it's basically, in the simplest of forms, it's setting up, email triggers and stuff that will send either an email to somebody based on an action, or you can create a series of emails that go on behind the scenes without a specific or literal person typing in an email and sending it again. And again, of course, you can personalize these, low-level personalization with just the name, of course, and it sends out. So that is in a nutshell all it is. You might hear, a lot of words in marketing, and you hear AI, you start hearing all these terms. Even SEM, SEO. When I got into it, I kept getting those mixed up a long time ago, right? So there's all these terms, all these fancy words. Marketing automation is it automates your emails, right? That's pretty much what it is, okay? That's the easy part to understand. Now, the harder parts are when and where to use it, strategically how to do it, right? And there's a danger in marketing automation, one that I actually lived through, and it's you abuse it. You abuse it because, just look at the evolution of if you're on top of marketing and you're learning from lots of people and you're listening and you're keeping your pulse. Just look at this flow of, what marketing automation, about 5-6 years ago, I kind of lose track of time. Boom, it was all the rage, right? And everybody started doing it. And it gave a huge leg up for the people that jumped in right away and that were doing it. Okay, time goes by. Everyone starts doing it again. So now it's just it's not an advantage anymore. So you got to think through. And then what happens is if the marketplace gets smarter and you start to identify what an automated message looks like. So then you got to, okay, how can we use marketing automation and not look like a bot, not look like something that's just nothing, just a bot, basically. We don't like bots. We like human. So you see this natural evolution about 5-6 years ago of everybody talking about marketing automation. Now, in the last 12 months, maybe, you have your Brian Kramers with his H2H, his human-to-human marketing. We have our Magnificent Marketing podcast and we have a lot of people on it. And I would have to say, you have your Ted Rubins of the world. It's about personal, it's about relationships. Your Michael Brenners of the world saying the same thing. Everybody, are saying, hey, everybody, stop with the madness. think through your strategy. We actually had the extreme pleasure of having Ann Hanley on our podcast, and she was like, it's all up front, strategy up front, everything up front. So that applies to every one of your marketing initiatives. And one of the things that you do need to incorporate for marketing automation is marketing automation. And the number one, in my opinion, the number one in pretty much one of the only reasons you use it is to save time. It's a time saver. That's what it is. But don't take that time saving and then start doing bad things. So that kind of sets the stage of where you might have some issues with it. Now, to get into marketing automation and let you get your juices flowing of where you can utilize it, start thinking about those activities that do not require an ultra personal initial message. For instance, let's think through like an e-commerce, right? And a lot of people think this through already. I mean, we're not talking to a lot. I mean, I'm not saying, hey, I'm the first one to know about that. A lot of people know about this stuff already, but there are potentially some users, some your audience listeners out there that might not have thought this through. So for instance, you can set up automation when somebody makes a purchase, and not just the thank you page that pops up, which is very important. You must have a thank you page. Must have a thank you page. I actually just talked with somebody who were doing these ad campaigns and they didn't have it. And I'm like, how are we tracking? How do we know if this is working? So have a thank you page, have a thank you page, have a thank you page. And on that, you can put, actions you want. But the opportunity you might be missing is to cultivate that new sale on e-commerce, like where they buy your stuff. And cultivate them through, hey, by the way, here's an instructional video on how to use our product or put it on or do whatever. Or, hey, here's a tip of, in and around their life, the kind of lifestyle. Like, hey, here's this article we wrote about this. You might enjoy it. Here's this, here's that. Hey, sign up for an email list. Or, here's this upsell that you work into that automated thing. And a little key pointer that I learned from somebody not too long ago, I think it was Andrew Davis, and I was like, I didn't even think about that. You have a little blissful period after somebody takes a big action that signs up for an email list, like your monthly email, or makes a purchase. That 7-day window, you can ping them 3, 4, 5, 6 times in the world says it's okay, at least right now, because it's like the honeymoon period, I guess, as he called it, not the bliss period, the honeymoon period. And so take advantage of that. Take advantage of when somebody makes a purchase to set up these automated sequences. And a lot of your e-com, your Shopifys of the world, they have this built in. So utilize that. So that's just like one example of where you can use it. And then now you take that same methodology when you have your lead magnets, you have your your quizzes, your polls, your white paper downloads, ebook downloads, stuff like that. Todd, that should not be the end. That should be the beginning. And when somebody does that, then you have a series of emails, again, not pounding them with sales offers. You're going to be dripping more value to them. Value through education, value through an offer, value through this, value through that. But set up those sequences that way. So that's another way. And now to take back to my original point is it's a time saver. Imagine if you tried to hire somebody that every time an email comes in, let me email this person. It makes no sense, right? Makes no sense. And also there's no need to be ultra personal for something like that. You want to still get them into your world. And when they submit a lead form, on a B2B or something like that, well, yeah, get a real person involved. Now's the time. Okay. So those are some of the, just basics that you really have to be doing. Now, a next level usage of marketing automation is when you get into sales attribution, when you get into helping the sales team be more successful. But this is where you potentially get into trouble because salespeople could potentially abuse that. You really do want, when salespeople are communicating with a client, you want to make sure that it's personalized. Now, with that being said, for certain companies that are having lots of leads, lots of conversations, and the salespeople really have their pulse on, is this a client that's worth me having on my task list that I need to have a personal message and a personal phone call to, right? Or you have those that you've been talking to a month, 2 months, 3 months, and you don't want to let them go, but you make the decision that I can't spend my time here. My time is better spent somewhere else. And you have to answer that, and you just got to have congruency in your sales and marketing department. Salespeople need to understand that. You got to have trust that they're going to utilize it the right way, because I personally saw a pitfall of it when I took my eye off the ball, and I started to realize one of the sales reps was absolutely abusing, and her sales numbers were going down. So I'm a macro manager. I have monthly numbers that I check, make sure they're in line. I do it because I think it's the best way, and for my own sanity, which I guess is why it's probably the best way. So well, at least for me. So but I noticed that was happening, and I was like, whoa, shit, my bad. Let's talk this out again. You need to not just keep dropping people into these automations. I need you to drop the ones that 1 out of 20 might turn into a sale, and you just put them, then you create these sequences that says, like a follow-up, hey, just checking in again. Hey, checking in one last time, on like some part of the sales process, be it a initial outreach, it could be a sales proposal follow-up when they're going dark on you, whatever. And then you just need to make sure the end of that sequence drops them into like a once a year contact, a twice a year ping. And I'm a big believer then, and I heard this stat a long time ago, that 5% most of the time is what makes a company successful or not. So get a 0.1% here, get a 0.05% there, get a little bit here, a little bit there, and that's where it comes into play. And trying to think other usages, sales attribution. Well, then obviously, if you have a massive list, and again, you got to know your client base. If you're selling something that is going to be $100,000 sale, and your list is couple hundred, 500, even 1,000 people throughout the country, be personalized, take the time. If your marketplace is, you go to a conference and they give you access to a list and it's like 5,000 people, 10,000 people, you can use it for prospecting too. And it could absolutely be very, very valuable to you. Now, with that being said, I would never do that in just a silo. I would take the emails that you're marketing to and then create custom audiences on social and incorporate that into your content plans. But it could very well work. And you can tell I'm not talking in absolutes, because there's a million companies that could potentially, be thinking about doing this, and you need to make sure it fits you right. But hopefully that gets your mind in the right place, where some usages and some potential dangers, because as a sales manager, you could set all this up and say, great. And then all of a sudden you look back and there's no more personalized calls going on anymore. And that completely defeats the purpose, which is success. And so you could be stealing from Peter to pay Paul, through success, and you don't want to do that. But it could be a massive time saver. And the other ones, the e-commerce and the downloads, those are no-brainers to drip those into your sequence. And then we could talk next level with automation. The other part of automation is the lead scoring, where if you have the name in the email, you can actually identify who's coming to your website through those. And then you can naturally have a system where they reach a score of 5 or 10 or 20 or 50 or however, how, depending on how low, medium, or high of a consideration your sale is. Then you can drip those to the sales or ping those to the sales people CRM and have them call on them. So that's the other part of marketing automation.
So you've brought up some interesting points. You've brought up some interesting points, and I want to kind of pull it back a little bit to our Main Street businesses who actually don't have a lot of marketing going on. Maybe they've got email going on. And you said something that I think is really important. The behavior I've seen is that when we talk about marketing automation with a small business owner, they sort of somehow jump into a system and a process, and they forget the human being, or maybe they don't know what their sales process is. So you said something important early in this conversation, which is understand what your process is that's face-to-face. Like if somebody came in, you would write them an email. How could a small business owner who's not doing very much, what kind of steps should they take to sort of get their feet wet inside the automation? Because I see a lot of folks running off to get systems and tools, but then they don't know what to do with them.
Well, it just is the sales process. You look at that in general, right? Mm-hmm. And then you look at what parts of these are not necessarily needed by a human being, that doesn't necessarily need to be uber personalized.
So you need to map out this sales.
Yeah, you got to think that through.
Right.
You got to think that through, like where it is now. People would say not to buy lists and don't, but I mean, there's big companies that offer, $7,500 a month to do these automation programs, and they're sourcing the data from LinkedIn, right? So, I don't know, I'm on Facebook Live and putting it out there, but it's not a horrible thing to do for, you don't want to, spam them with all this stuff and continuously kill it and do, but it is a tactic that big companies that utilize that sell these automation stuff. So, if somebody's wanting to, if they have this massive list that they've built up, either paid, bought, earned, whatever, and it's so big that they can't reach out to them, might be a time to do a sales prospecting simple value prop. Now, you obviously need to think through the emails. You need to make sure that your value prop and just as if you were writing it, you got to think all that through. And personally, that's not like me, like my expertise. I bring in, expert copywriters. And I know a lot of small businesses are like, oh, but it is what it is. It's budget and bandwidth, and we've all had to start somewhere. And there's not going to be a one size fits all. It's going to be one size fits you. And if you need to, you don't have the money to invest in marketing, then you don't have the money or the time or the know-how to invest in it. And that just is what it is. And we all got to start. But once you grow to that and you're able to identify where are these time suckers, where does this time suck out of my company and my life and my employees? Time is money. And that's where you want to utilize marketing automation. Strategically, how to the best practices, how to do it. There's probably better people than I to learn from, but I am able to put out there the thought process for somebody who's been really deep into it for a long time and have had to grow a small company utilizing it, now has to have to apply this for other companies now that we work with other companies. That's been the number one thing that I've come to see the value on it.
Talk a little bit about budget. If a small business wants to start marketing automation, let's start with the fact that maybe they have an email list and maybe they're, and now they want to kind of start taking that next step. What kind of budgets are we talking about? What's a safe budget to start with and grow into?
Man, we only use a robust platform here, called Acton that has all the functionality. So when we bring on an account, we have economies of scale. We can start doing it for low couple hundreds, on a cost for the platform itself. We haven't really dipped into the more cost saving ones, but from what I know is that companies like Mailchimp have incorporated marketing automation into their offerings over the last couple of years, and they have some very reasonable price points and some easy tools, and I think they have a pretty decent support staff. So I would say, again, it's just one of those things. I haven't needed to look into other platforms. We have ours covered. We have it covered for us. We have it covered for clients. We have it covered for everybody. So I haven't really dipped into like the marketplace, but I have come across Mailchimp in the last couple of years, knowing that they are offering that, and they have. So just go to Mailchimp and look. You're looking at some low hundreds, like maybe even under 100, but a couple hundred. But then you just need to. Hopefully, their support helps you, or you have somebody on staff. It's really not that hard. Let me say that these things seem so daunting. Some things seem just so daunting in marketing, and then all of a sudden you realize, oh, that's all it is. It's just a series of emails, and we have to set up the script, and then I enter the emails, and I got to make sure and you have somebody, I can do that, but don't just jump into it. Think it through. 80% of your time needs to be spent up front. What are our objectives? Number one, identify where are the time sucks, okay? And then if you want to go prospecting, and that's an objective for you, it would be a massive undertaking. I have 2 people on my team, and I'm supposed to reach out to 1,000 people, or maybe let's see what happens. Let's do a test for 200 of that list. Let's see if we get a few replies based on our outreach. And then and by the way, once people reply to an automated message, it's going to come into your inbox. Let me just say that. It's not just going to it is going to keep happening on the side in the background. But when somebody engages, then it comes in, and then you just need to have a system where it either automatically negates replies, or you just drop it into your negation list, because the last thing you want to do is have your salesperson having a conversation and they say, hey, I'd love to set up a call. So it's like, oh, shit, that wasn't supposed to happen. So make sure that you have your negation set up. And again, I'm not here to technically walk you through how to set this up. Just take the pointers, the right questions to ask on whoever does help you. So make sure that that's known, that you can put a negative in, and then people won't be getting that email anyway. It'll be stopped. And a lot of these do have integrations. We've actually built our integration from Acton into Salesforce. So now it's just like drop this person into automation. So that's a little bit higher level, but you can do that sort of thing. But again, think through where your time sucks. Okay, what's our objectives? Think it through. Read over those emails as if you would be sending them yourself 1,000 times, and then do tests. Of course, like let's test it out at first. And that's where I would spend my focus. Identify that, think it through, get with somebody who knows what they're doing. And Mailchimp, I think, has support. So if you're just getting into them, they're a great platform. I have nothing.
Yeah. So you mentioned Acton, which I really like. Mailchimp. You have tools like
Marketo, Pardo.
Yeah, Marketo.
Well, not Pardo anymore. They've changed their name.
They're pretty big. They're pretty big. I like tool. I've actually gotten a tool that I use called Simplycast, which I like quite a bit.
You might know more about this. Do you know of other some less expensive? But again, you can always Google what are the most cost-effective marketing automation platforms, and you'll get your lists. And or put top, and then there's people who have done this research. So you just need to look. But in your experience, what about your platform? What have you experienced? I've
used Aweber, which is really cost effective. Mailchimp I totally love, and I've worked with them before. Another platform I like quite a bit, which has a couple sneaky add-ons that other platforms don't have. It's called Simplycast. They're out of Canada. They have something called a hands-free service that I really like, because what they allow you to do is you can buy buckets of time and they will set up your funnel and write your emails for you. Not to sound like Oprah, but how awesome is that?
No. I mean, you just it's hard. That stuff is hard. And that's why people don't do it. That stuff's hard. And yes, go for that, people, listeners, do that. Because if you go, you're on a limited budget and you go through a firm, even like ourselves, now granted, when the stakes are higher and there's more opportunity, it's worth us to invest our $250 an hour copywriter because the opportunity is so grand. But if you have a $500 budget and what you're going to be selling is going to result in a bunch of $20 margins, $50 margins, or whatever, you take advantage of that, because those are going to be the things that are going to prevent you from doing it. And if that comes all in one package, setting it up, invest the few hundred that it takes for them up front. Do it. Absolutely. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Hey, all right. So we're getting ready to jump into the chat now. So the one last question I have for you is, what is it that you think every small business owner should be doing right now as they think about automating their marketing?
Well, identify if you're finding you or your staff having time sucks in any areas. That's, you've heard me say that a few times. Identify those roadblocks. As business owners, that's really what and managers, business owners, I mean, that's really our goal, is, well, obviously to build a passionate staff that is all engaged and everything, but then you look to make them successful. What roadblocks do I need to take away from them to let them flourish and thrive? And a big roadblock is people get caught up in doing the 80% of tasks that move 20% of the needle. You need to free that time up. And this is a big initiative with us currently, and for myself. We've eventually started to grow here, and I've realized I need to stop doing all this stuff, right? So that's the same mindset for this. And number two is look into some of these platforms and if, identify what you have on staff. Do you have people who are great copywriters and are great at writing sales emails or follow-up emails? Well, then utilize that. And if you don't, okay, identify you're going to need to pay for that. Find out if anybody, again, you don't need coding. You don't need any sort of that knowledge, anywhere close to that to set up these. They've, just like technology, it keeps evolving, and the purpose of technology as it evolves is to make it easier for the masses. Automation has gotten to that point. So now it's just a matter of, somebody who has just a willingness to learn and is smart. These trainers with these platforms will walk you through how to set it up. If at that point you still don't want to do it yourself, there's solutions that you can utilize. So I would basically identify if you have roadblocks, identify what's bandwidth and talent you have on hand, and then fill in the blanks for this. And then again, a couple of the very top things that you should do if you're selling anything on the, if you have anything that somebody enters something with their name and email, e-commerce buy, lead magnets with the quizzes, polls, downloads. That's your number one opportunity that you must get going, because it's the perfect spot for marketing automation. And then the next level is your sales emails, adding into your sales attribution and all of that stuff. Those are next level ones. They need to be thought through better.
Awesome. Thank you so much, David, for being on this great podcast with us.
Thank you.
And for sharing all of your awesome tips. Everybody head on into the chat where we've got a big conversation already happening. Thank you, David.
Thank you.